I feel like the Zombies mode is definitely the Marmite of the Call of Duty community. It's either the reason you look forward to every Treyarch release, or you play it once on the first week and never touch it again. I for one bloody love it. With the release of Black Ops 6 and its controversial Zombies mode, I thought it was time we take a look back at not only the mode's history, but also what makes it so special. So join me as I take a look back at Call of Duty Zombies. We can't talk about Zombies without going back to the very beginning. That is of course Call of Duty World at War. Released in November of 2008, Zombies has a very interesting origin story. The mode was inspired by a flash game called The Last Stand, which had a very similar premise. The developers needed an extra mission as a reward for completing the campaign, very similar to COD 4's bonus mission, Mile High Club, which would see the players try to beat their times over and over again in this unique fight on board a plane. But Treyarch wanted something more, and after one of the developers played the flash game called The Last Stand, they started working on the first iteration of Zombies as a side project. Using assets from other parts of the game and getting the mocap team to secretly record motion for the Zombies animations, the mode quickly spread around the offices of Treyarch, who knew they had something special on their hands. But rather than announcing the mode, it was kept a secret for players to find at the end of the World at War's campaign, and on completion, this is what they got. I can only imagine the confusion and terror the person who discovered this first genuinely felt. I'm gutted I never got to discover Zombies like this. The first time I played it was in 2010, so everyone already knew, and by that time you didn't even have to complete the campaign anymore. So here we are, Noct der Untoten. If I had to describe Noct in one word, it would be barebones, or is that two words? Oh well, by today's standards, the World at War version of this map just really feels empty, but that also gives it its unique feeling. No power, no perks, nothing.
You get nothing!
All you have are a few war weapons, a few doors to buy, and this absolute scam. But right in the corner of the second room, we have probably the most iconic part of Zombies. That's right, the mystery box. For 950 points you could get almost any gun that was available in World at War, or even this bad boy, the ray gun. Whilst making this video I realised there's 4 things that World at War introduced over the first 4 maps. These are what I like to call the 4 pillars or 4 P's of Zombies, and in Noct we got the first one, power-ups / mystery box. I'm including the mystery box in this because it kind of ruins the whole everything starting with a P thing I have going on. But what I also mean by power-ups is of course these things that you get on occasion, which can literally save your entire run if they drop at the right time. The original 4 found in this map include max ammo, double points, insta-kill and the nuke. They're all pretty much self-explanatory. These along with the mystery box helped delay the inevitable. Obviously you were going to die at some point, and in Noct it was a lot sooner, especially in single player. Your best option was to camp with an LMG in the corner and just hope for the best, and that's what most people did.
Stupid death, hope next time it's not you.
It was clear that Zombies was a success and players wanted more, and that's exactly what they got. Treyarch would release 3 DLC packs over the next year, with each one getting a new Zombies map, and each map included one of those pillars I brought up earlier. First up was Verrückt. It was very similar to Noct in that it was very closed in. Verrückt probably has one of the creepiest atmospheres in any Zombies map, with it taking place in a rundown asylum, and constantly hearing distant screams in the background. And another thing, it's fucking hard. There really isn't a concrete strategy to surviving in Verrückt. After about round 8, when the sprinters start coming in, things get a bit intense.
I don't know what the fuck to do! I don't know what to do!
But this time around you get a bit more help from the second P I'll be talking about, which is perks. They are now a staple in every Zombies game, but this map is where we first got introduced to them. The original 4 were Quick Revive, Double Tap, Speed Cola and of course Juggernog. Two of these would be absolute godsends, while the other two were useless, especially in single player. Speed Cola would greatly improve reload speeds, Jug would increase your health. If these two were a double act, they'd be Method Man and Red Man. Then there's Quick Revive and Double Tap. Quick Revive in this game costs about 1,500 points, but it doesn't give you a revive in single player, and is only somewhat useful in multiplayer. Then Double Tap just increases the fire rate of your gun, which means you just run out of ammo quicker, with no real improvements on damage. So if these two were a double act, they'd be fucking Jedward. Verrucht also introduced turning on the power and traps to the mode, also things that are now staples in Zombies. Then we got Shino Numa, probably the most unique looking map in World at War. Rather than being set somewhere in Germany, the map was set in Japan and would be one of the most important maps in Zombies history, as it introduced us to the story and of course the third P, playable characters. Yeah, I'm cheating a bit with this one. What I mean by playable characters is a set crew for the map to tell the story, which in this map is of course the original four, that being Edward Richthofen, Nikolai Belinsky, Takeo Masaki and Tank Dempsey. Now, I'm not going to explain the story of Zombies because this video would be about 2 hours longer, but what I will say is that having these set crews in each map gave them a bit more character, and even though the story was still in its infancy, it would have a big part to play in the future of the mode. It wasn't just the story that Shino Numa introduced, we also got our first wonder weapon, the Wunderwaffe, a weapon almost as iconic as the ray gun. Speaking about iconic things in Zombies, around about round 5 or 6 on this map you would hear this for the very first time.
Come here, puppy. Got something for you.
What would happen next would be the most stressful few minutes in Zombies history. Of course the dog rounds. In the future games aren't that bad, but in World at War they are fucking insane due to them being a bit broken. But they're a great addition and something to break the gameplay up a bit. Shino Numa would also be notorious for being super easy to get to high rounds, due to each round only having a limit of 24 zombies. Pair that with the new wonder weapon and pretty much anyone can reach super high rounds on this map. Then that only leaves Derice, the final map on World at War and probably the best of the bunch. Even with its game breaking bugs, it is the complete Zombies package in World at War, as it has everything I've spoken about so far, and also the fourth and final P, that being the Pack-a-Punch machine. For 5,000 points it would greatly improve your weapon's stats and in some cases give you an entirely new weapon, like turning the starting pistol into a grenade launcher. Pack-a-Punch and all the other Ps I've spoken about are important because they all add layers to what starts out as just a wave based shooter. You have different reasons and goals to survive, whether that be to buy all the perks, pack-a-punch your guns, get a wonder weapon out the box, or try and figure out the story behind the characters you're playing as. It's what makes Zombies special, that building up to the best setup you can get, starting from just a pistol with limited ammo, to having all perks and 2 pack-a-punch wonder weapons. This gameplay loop would set up the mode to become a staple in Call of Duty almost 15 years later, and of course over the next few years would lead to some of the best maps we'd ever seen. Even though World at War is really broken and super difficult to play nowadays, it's still as important as ever for laying the foundations of the game mode we all know and love today. Zombies in World at War was a success, so much so that Treyarchs were planning on releasing a 4th map pack exclusively for the game mode. This would include 3 maps that were later worked into future maps, with one set in a theatre, one set on the coast and one of them set in Paris. They stopped production however to use the resources to work on the next game, and also to stop the DLC interfering with the release of Modern Warfare 2. I mean, it would be quite ridiculous for Treyarch to release a Zombies DLC during an Infinity Ward game cycle. But anyway, after the massive success of Modern Warfare 2, Treyarch's next game, Black Ops, was set to be even bigger. Now I have got a video on my channel talking about Black Ops 1 in more detail. I'll leave a link in the description down below for you to check out, but of course I'll be focusing more on the Zombies side of things in this one. In Black Ops, Treyarch decided to make zombies more present in the game. No longer did you have to complete the campaign to play it, and also Zombies now had its own custom menu, with its own music. This is probably the most iconic menu in all of Zombies history, and to go along with it, probably the most iconic Zombies map of all time, Kino de Toten. Right, I'll say it, Kino is a glorified Zombies tutorial map. It has everything that I spoke about in the World at War segment, but it feels like a watered down version of Derice, and it makes complete sense. Like I said, Black Ops 1 was one of the best selling games of all time, and this would be a lot of people's first Zombies map, myself included. It doesn't mean that it's not tons of fun though. The simple layout and easy to reach Pack-a-Punch makes it one of the best maps to just pick up and play. No crazy quests or ridiculous tasks to unlock Pack-a-Punch, just good old fashioned survival with the main 4 pillars of Zombies introduced in World at War. But Kino wasn't the only map in Black Ops 1's release, because of course we also got 5, a map set in the Pentagon and starring the first ever guest characters. Sort of. Two of these being JFK and Fidel Castro, which is actually mental when you think about it. This map would be a lot more expansive, have a few more steps to unlock in the Pack-a-Punch, but nothing crazy. But it would also be way harder. The map is a lot like a World at War map, very tight and claustrophobic, not really space to train, which by the way, during this time, training became the go-to strat in every Zombies map. Just don't ask us what it was called back then. 5 would be a clear indicator of where the future of Zombies was going, taking what they built in World at War and slowly giving the mode more depth, whether that be with the storyline and Easter eggs, or the new bosses and way to open Pack-a-Punch and perks. Now a lot of the gameplay you'll be seeing for the DLC maps will be from the Zombies Chronicles DLC in Black Ops 3, just because my PS3 is in storage and I'm not paying that much for a 13-year-old DLC.
£13, I mean, I ain't got that sort of money.
I'm not paying 13 quid.
No.
Anyway, over the next year we'd get 4 new maps, these being Ascension, Call of the Dead, Shangri-La and of course Moon. Each map would not only get bigger and more complicated each time, but the story slowly started to be incorporated into the gameplay. In Ascension we'd get our very first story based Easter egg, and the rest, as they say, is history. Now like I said before, I'm not going to go into detail about the story, but I think it's really important to point out just how more expansive it was becoming during Black Ops 1's lifespan. It wasn't just hidden radios or things written on the wall. Now you could do things in game to advance the story, which started back in Ascension and would only get more and more convoluted over time. I think it's also important to note in the same time as Black Ops 1 and its DLC season, the YouTube community around it was growing massively, with people like Mr. Dalek JD and Mr. Ruffle Waffles starting their Zombies content at the same time. It meant that not only did you have the Easter eggs in the game, but now there were also people talking about the story and the eggs online, building the hype with each new DLC release. Another thing Black Ops 1 would do is add perks in each new map, and these would become staples in the mode just as much as the original 4. First you had Stamina Up and PhD Flopper in Ascension, Deadshot Daiquiri in Call of the Dead, and finally Mule Kick on Moon. Throughout the years, Treyarchs have added new perks in other games, but I don't think any of them are as iconic as the ones in BL1. I think the Zombies basic formula had already been perfected by the release of Derice in World at War, but what Black Ops 1 Zombies did was give players a reason, other than just survival, to play the mode. Now you had an objective. Granted, it wasn't needed for you to still enjoy the experience, but it definitely gave some much needed depth to what was just a bonus mode in the previous game. Another great thing about Black Ops 1 Zombies is the sheer amount of maps you actually get. You get 2 maps on disc, 4 DLC ones, and then you get all 4 maps from World at War included in the final DLC as well, which is a whopping 10 maps in total, and Dead Ops Arcade if you count that, which I don't. I don't think in the grand scheme of things that Black Ops 1 Zombies is the best version in the series history, but I think it's just as important as World at War in terms of moulding the game mode we get today, in terms of Easter eggs and quests, and also giving us some of the most iconic maps in the mode's history, like Moon, Call of the Dead, and of course, Kino de Toten.
Stupid deaths. Hope next time it's not you.
Now I've subtitled the Black Ops 2 portion a game of two halves, which is a cliche used in football a lot, but I think it perfectly sums up Black Ops 2 zombie mode. On one hand, you have the first 3 maps which just didn't land with the player base, and then 3 maps that just hit it out the park. It's such a mixed bag, but the funny thing is Black Ops 2 could have been perfect if those first few maps made a few small changes. So let's take a look back at what happened in Black Ops 2. The first 3 maps included Transit, the only on this map on release, along with Town, Bus Depot and Farm, but I'm not going to count them as their own maps considering they're just parts of Transit. Then Nuketown Zombies, a DLC you only get if you got the deluxe edition of the game, and then finally Die Rise, the first map from the DLC season that year. The thing that all these maps have in common is that they all have interesting ideas and unique experiences, but they're just executed in the wrong way. Let's start with Transit. When it released, it was the biggest map we'd ever seen in Zombies, a massive town broken up into smaller parts, which you will get to via the bus. Transit had the potential to be really good, but sadly, due to the console limitations and some tedious tasks and wonder weapons, first up the map was covered in fog due to the consoles at the time not being able to render a lot of the map all at once, but also venturing out into the fog would mean you get jumped by these ugly fuckers, which I didn't know about the first time I played this map, and I shat myself. Then you had the wonder weapon on the map, the jet gun, which was a pain in the arse to get and had a tendency to break pretty easily, and also the Pack-a-Punch, which I've never even attempted to unlock myself. This will see you go into different parts of the map to do different steps, and if something goes wrong you have to wait to go all the way back to the part of the map again on the bus, which takes quite a while to get through. I think Transit's biggest problem is its massive amount of things to do, with a small payoff. It just wasn't worth playing. That's why I think a lot of players opted to play Town instead. But if you had the deluxe edition, you were lucky enough to play Nuketown Zombies, the classic multiplayer map in Zombies form. And it was just okay. It literally feels like a custom map someone's made on PC, but it itself has a problem that makes it a nightmare to enjoy, that being the random perk drops. You see, every 3 rounds a random perk machine drops onto the map, which isn't a bad idea, but it also means the rounds could hit double digits before you even get Juggernog, which in a small condensed map like Nuketown is not much fun at all, and it's always a gamble on what you're going to get first. But all in all, it's not a bad map, and definitely a lot more easier to pick up and play than Transit. Then the third and final bad map in Black Ops 2 is Die Rise, a map that people on PlayStation 3 had to wait until February to play. Was it worth the wait? Absolutely not. It's not a bad map and it had some unique ideas, but just like Transit, the execution was just off. The art style and layout of Derice was actually quite unique, and it's a map I really want to like, but it can also be frustrating, especially due to the whole verticality of the map. Jumping down lift shafts and across buildings where the smallest error can end your whole run just wasn't fun. Even falling down places you're supposed to fall down could kill you instantly. Only if there was a perk that could stop fall damage. Oh, there is, and it's on this map. But you can't get to it, and the devs just put it in as a massive slap in the face to the players. Nice one. But I think that sums up the first 3 maps perfectly on Black Ops 2. Rather than rewarding the players for playing the maps and learning them, it was almost as if we were being punished for even starting them up in the first place. Things weren't looking good for BO2 Zombies, and then we got this.